everyone, Demetri here.
And Ty the Guy 2800.
Here with another discussion. So this discussion is actually going to be divided into a few different parts. This is going to be very similar to the Super Mario Odyssey discussions we did back in 2017, where we go over certain topics about each game. And this one's going to be a little bit different than that, because instead of making videos about different topics for one game, we're actually going to talk about the 3D Mario remasters that might be happening, and in each video, we'll be covering one game. In this episode, we're going to be covering Super Mario 64, but in future episodes, we'll be covering Super Mario Sunshine, then the Galaxy games, and maybe 3D Land and 3D World if you're up for that. I know you like 3D World nowadays, but I know you still hate 3D Land.
Yeah, and on that note about Odyssey, has it been 3 years already since then?
Yeah, it has been. That's why I feel like it's time for a new 3D Mario.
Yeah, well, I think the 3D remasters are just to hold us over for Odyssey 2 being in 2021, but that's another discussion for another day.
But yeah, so we're going to cover Super Mario 64 in this one. This is a game that I know you're very passionate about, and I like the game
Mm,
a lot. I wouldn't say I like it as much as Super Mario Odyssey or even 3D World to that extent, but
mm.
it's a great game. It's definitely one of the best 3D Marios. I do think that the only games that are lower than it are Sunshine and 3D Land, but needless to say, Super Mario 64 is a great game. Definitely one of my favorite Mario games out there. But I have the most memories playing the DS one.
Yeah, so quick fun story about Mario 64. The first time I knew about it, I think on a car ride with my friends going to the beach, and my friend had his DS, and he had and I always called it Super Mario DS because I could never see the 64 since it was so tiny on the cartridge. So I always called the game Super Mario DS, and I was just blown away by looking at it on the DS. Like Mario was going through doors, he was jumping in paintings. It was so new to me, and I've never seen anything like it before. It was like, wow, I need to play this.
You know what's
So
pretty funny
eventually, my
though?
dad, yeah, what's
No,
up?
you could go on because it kind of follows that story.
Oh, okay. So my dad got 64 DS at a GameStop. Actually, wow, I'm getting deja vu. I just remembered how we got it. We went to GameStop to go get it, and I enjoyed it. And then later on the Wii Virtual Console, I got the original, and I'll be honest, I love the original more. I don't know what's about it. Like you would think I would like the remake more than the original, but there's just there's no other word to put it 64 with, but there's just some sort of magic that you get when you're playing the original game. I don't know if you get the same type of feeling I do whenever I play it, but every time I see that intro for the game, I just it's just so good.
To be honest with you, I was way more into the DS one. So the story I was going to tell about that is that was actually going to be the first Mario and first Nintendo game I ever played. I remember I was going to do a spring show for my school in fourth grade. It was an art school, by the way, so I think you kind of get the idea. And my grandma got me a
Yeah.
Mario game, and it was Super Mario 64 DS. And she asked, "Is this the right one right here?" Because I was talking about Mario on the DS because my friend Nick wanted me to get the game. That's all he talked about. He really wanted me to get into the series, and I thought at the time I never would, but look at me almost 10 years later, still really into the Mario series. Now, the first game I got was New Super Mario Bros., but I did end up getting 64 DS that Christmas, so it wasn't too long of a gap when I got New Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario 64 DS. In fact, that Christmas I got quite a few Mario games. I got Mario Kart DS and Super Mario 64 DS. So those were the games I really wanted to get. And I'll say, they're still some of my favorite Mario games. Now, a little bit about
It's
the 64 DS compared to the original. Yes, I had a similar experience where I played 64 DS first, It was actually my first 3D Mario game too, but I also got the
Hmm.
Wii Virtual Console version, and I also have the original on the N64. But the one I have the most experience with is the one on the DS. But I have had enough experience with the original to talk about it and consider what the remaster would be, what we want to see from it, and just stuff like that.
So just a quick side note, it's funny that you said your friend's name was Nick because my friend who introduced me to Mario 64 DS was also named Nick. So what a coincidence.
I wonder what he's up to nowadays. You never know what your friends from
Eh.
elementary school are up to until you see it. There's this guy.
They might make a music video, you never know.
There's this guy Ben I knew from elementary school, and I've told you about him. He
Oh
just
yeah.
became an extended version of himself from elementary school later in life. Same, no filter, hilarious guy. But anyways, what we're going to talk about is what we imagine the remaster to be. This is what we want it to be personally. We're going to get into what we think it'll be soon, but this is what I think or I want it to be. So I played a lot of the Crash Insane trilogy and Spyro Reignited trilogy, and I really like what they did there. They were able to create an art style that worked with the series, redoing the models, redoing the textures, and everything looks beautiful. So I think if they did that for Super Mario 64 and the other games, that would be great. And they already got a pretty great 3D Mario engine on the Switch with Super Mario Odyssey. Now, are they going to use the Mario Odyssey model for all the 3D Mario games? I wouldn't be too upset about that. After all, it's the best Mario model anyway. So that's what I'm kind of expecting to see. So kind of like an Odyssey version of 64, if you get what I mean. Think the Mushroom Kingdom, but for the whole game.
Hmm. I personally do not want the Odyssey art style in this remaster at all. Um, I'm pretty sure that's a little controversial with some people because I'm sure people would love to see the Odyssey art style in a Mario 64 remake, and that's totally fine. I mean, more power to you if you want that. But personally, uh, I would like it if each of these remasters had their own distinct style rather than just kind of stealing Odyssey's art style. Because I do feel like each game did have their own feel to them, you know. Here's what I imagine. This is a long shot, uh, but this is kind of what I would like. Now, Mario's art style back in the late 90s was very interesting when he jumped into 3D. It was very rounded and very shiny and very interesting to say the least. I actually have a lot of nostalgia for it
So you're talking about the
because I
early
remember.
3D models?
Yeah, not in game, but I'm talking about like the artwork, like the Mario 64 like
Yeah, that's what I
covered
was
like
referring to.
yeah. So stuff like that, right? Um, I kind of want them to revise that look, of course, go back to it and use that for the art style for the Mario 64 remake. Now, how are they going to do this? How are they going to make it look good? Here's my crazy idea. The whole goal of the game is to save Princess Peach because she baked you a cake. Well, what if the world was actually made out of cake? Now, okay, before you yell at me in the comments below, here's what I'm thinking, right? You don't really you like from a far distance you can't really tell if it's made out of cake. But if you look like at the finer details, you can see like little grooves made in the fondant grass, right? Maybe Mario and the characters, right? I was thinking they could look more like those glass China. I wouldn't say China dolls, but that's the closest thing I can describe them as. She would have on wedding cakes, right?
Right.
So that they could have that shiny look to them. Um, and the models in game would look close to that of the early Mario 3D artwork. I doubt very much they would do that, but you have to admit, like looking at Mario 64 compared to like later Mario games, it does have a distinct art style. Even the mushrooms look different. Uh, and I definitely think this remake needs to he needs to strike a chord um, by, you know, being faithful to the original and also feeling nostalgic at the same time, right? And I think by capturing the spirit of the late 90s Mario look um, and putting a new twist on it, I think that could really encapsulate the not only the time period in a really genuine and tasteful way, but it can also make the game stand out against the others in the remaster collection. Because as much as I love Mario 64, compared to the other 3D Mario games in this collection, it does seem a little vanilla. So any artistic flares that they could do while staying truthful to the original is always helpful.
So the thing with the fifth generation of video games is that it had that distinct art style that nothing else really did have. The low poly
Right.
designs, but that was mainly due to the
Hmm.
limitations of the hardware. And I do like the idea you're going for, having the art style of the 64 box art and Mario's model
Hmm.
back then. That's a very cool idea. But the thing is, we're going to go into what we think the remaster will be, and like you said, kind of doubt that's
Right.
happening. I think they're going to go for a streamlined art
Hmm.
style throughout all of them because they have the Mario model now. I don't think they're really willing to change
Yeah.
it. That's more of a Zelda thing to do.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I don't think it's impossible, right? But I feel like it's really unlikely. But man, it would be so cool if all those Mario remasters had like a really distinct look to them. It would really help them stand out.
Yeah, that would be cool. But what do you think it's going to be like? Because with my prediction and what I'd like to see from it having the Odyssey art style, but for the game, I think that's kind of what Nintendo's going to do. So that's why I really have my heart set on it.
Um, I I have two kind of options here. Either we're getting the remaster thing wrong and it's just an enhanced HD port, which I think at this point I'm kind of straying more and more away with it as I keep thinking about the collection in general. Um, and I don't know. I really don't know. I know you could see the game being remade by using Odyssey's assets. I can't. I don't know what it is with me, but I don't know if it would be the same. Like it would definitely look nicer. I just don't know if it would be Mario 64 again, you know? Um, and Odyssey's controls are different from 64. Not that I'm saying Odyssey's controls are bad, because they're of course they're way better than 64's was, but there's a certain feel that 64 had that I don't know if they could recapture here. So, do I think they're going to use the Odyssey art style? Maybe, but I'm not too sure. Honestly, I'm on the fence of what I think we're gonna get. I know you're a little bit more confident in what you think, but honestly, I have my heart set on the 64 box art look. uh,
It'd be cool to see.
maybe it's dumb. And no, I know, but maybe it's dumb to like want it really, really badly because I'm probably gonna get burned out by the end when they do the reveal. But man, that 64 had such a distinct look. And I'm telling you, it's like going back from the original 64 to 64 DS, to me personally, with the streamlined Mario look for 64, personally, it made it feel a little bland to me.
What? 64?
Well, no, no, no. Well, 64 DS, with the like newer streamlined Mario models and enemies and stuff like that. It kind of didn't really mesh well for me with the environments that were being presented there. Of course, it was still technically low poly with the DS hardware and stuff like that. So maybe I'll be wrong and maybe it'll look good in the Odyssey engine, right? But I don't know. I need to be convinced.
The thing with Super Mario 64 DS though is that it was really made to showcase the power of the DS, and that it could run 3D games like 64. Because when the DS was released
True.
in 2004, the other handheld system, the Game Boy Advance, it was 32-bit, but it had such a problem handling 3D games. Mario Kart Super Circuit, to be honest with you, it doesn't handle that well. But to see something handle
Right.
3D games really well, well, we got some of the best games out there, like Mario Kart DS. Super Mario 64 DS was a
Mm-hmm.
really good remake. And going on to that,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that Super Mario 64 DS content will be included in the game?
Hmm. That's a very good question. I feel like, generally speaking, in the Mario fan base, I don't think 64 DS is looked upon that fondly, for whatever reason that may be.
It's because of the
Uh,
controls.
yeah, I mean, the controls do take a little bit of getting used to. Um, but um, here's what I see. I mean, they could bring back the mini games, but they could also have that as its own separate category in the remasters thing. Personally, I don't think so. I think maybe what we might see, is a maybe a playable Luigi and maybe a rideable Yoshi, but I don't think Wario will make an appearance. I think what they want
Wow.
to do, I think what they want to do is try to focus on the original and remaking the original.
You,
Um,
you know what?
yeah.
The more I think about it, I think you're right about that. It's kind of hard to see 64 DS content coming, but they could always do this. Do you have Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Switch?
I do.
There's an option to play the new mode, which is stuff with enhancements like Funky Kong, a little bit of, I think, the extra hearts, a few new
Right.
items, stuff like that. But then there's
Hmm.
also the original mode where you could play it like the Wii U original. So maybe they'll have a Switch for DS mode or 64 mode or original if you want to call it
Um,
that. They could do that,
I don't.
but the more I think
They
about it,
could.
they'd probably just have Luigi as a secret character and maybe Yoshi.
Yeah, I think what may happen is that we might get a rideable Yoshi. I'm not saying playable Yoshi because I just don't think that's likely. I think rideable Yoshi makes a lot more sense. And then maybe like you can replay levels with like the Yoshi egg, somewhere in the level, like maybe in Bomb Battlefield or Womp's Fortress.
So like Super Mario
Um,
Advance.
yeah, basically. But this time you could actually crack the egg and hop on Yoshi and maybe do some extra challenges. Uh, as for Luigi, I think it's possible to see him. I also think it's possible, not to sidetrack or anything, but maybe we'll finally get what Miyamoto intended and have a multiplayer mode for Mario 64.
I never thought about that, but that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Mario and Luigi running around in Peach's castle is kind of what Mario 64 2 has been rumored to be for such a long time. It'd be nice for everything to come full circle.
That'd be awesome to see. Now, how about some quality of life updates? The camera on Super Mario 64 isn't the greatest. There wasn't a second analog stick so you can control it with precision. Do you think they're gonna fix stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the one thing I think they'll bring over from Odyssey itself is its camera. I think that camera is just um it's one of the best 3D gaming, like 3D platformer. Three, I
3D
can't even talk.
platformer camera.
There we go. 3D platformer camera. Yeah. Um I think it would work really well with 64, especially since yes, especially in the original and in 64 DS. God, 64 DS's controls were even worse. But um, I think it would really benefit in a game like this. One of the things I did want to bring up though, um, this is a remaster, so it's not really a reimagining of the game itself. So it'll look better, it'll play better, it'll still be the same game. Do you think they're going to get rid of lives? And do you think they're going to get rid of the mission structure? Meaning, Do you think that they're gonna keep kicking you out of the painting to jump back in? I think they're not, and here's my reason why. It kind of define. I'm not talking about the lives. I'm just talking about the mission structure. I think that kind of defines the era of 3D Mario that was then. And I think if you kind of take that away, it just kind of feels more like another Odyssey. I don't know if you how you feel about that.
Lives they might get rid of, but I couldn't see them kicking out of the painting, get them getting rid of that. Because the mission structure I think
Yeah,
will still exist in the game. They're just gonna do like what you said, remaster it. But I think that's about it for quality of
yeah,
life improvements because 64 overall, it's a really good game that's still held the test of time. I like to say a lot of
yeah.
N64 games haven't aged well because there are often better alternatives to stuff on it. With Super Mario, I mean, with Mario Kart 64, you could
Mhm.
play Mario Kart 8 instead, or even something like Double Dash or Wii. Those, in my opinion, are better games. Then you got better
Wick,
versions of Mario
yeah.
Golf, Smash Bros. But with Mario 64, there's just something about it that's unlike any other
Mhm.
game. And that's the thing with the 3D Mario games. They're all different from each other. And if you played one,
Oh yeah.
you haven't played the other. It's not like something like Just Dance or Call of
Another
Duty.
another another question I want to bring up to you. There's no doubt that they're going to be redoing lines in Mario 64, the remaster. Um, how do you think they're going to handle that? Because the Mario, the voices in Mario 64, especially Bowser's voice and Princess Peach's voice, are not the same as they are today. Do you think it's going to be, do you think it's going to be detrimental to the nostalgia that the game has, that we won't have those same voices, or do you think that maybe they'll keep them and we'll hear Bowser laugh like this again? Ooh, 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 ooh.
That wasn't bad. But going on to that, Mario 64 didn't have extensive voice acting, so all they really need to
Mhm.
redo is the beginning of the game where Peach says, "Dear Mario, I baked a cake for you. Please come to the
Yeah,
castle. Yours
that
truly, Princess Toadstool." Peach. Yeah, they're probably
that
gonna
I'm
redo that.
yeah, that I'm fine with. But even like Charles Martinet's original lines are very nostalgic to me and very iconic. I don't know if they either up the quality of those original voice clips, because Charles Martinet sounds practically the same in every game as Mario. He just gets kind of low pitched as he gets older.
I don't know, I
But
think it's
do you
quite the
think that
opposite here, 'cause the voice lines were too low pitched, I think, in 64. They redid them in DS.
really?
So the things I could see being redone, Mario's voice
Hmm.
acting lines, and Bowser's. That's kinda it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be
I, I
surprised
I
if they
wonder
retain them.
I wonder if they get Kenny James, who's the voice actor for Bowser, to redo the ooh ooh in like his typical Bowser voice. I wonder how that would sound.
I'm sure it'd sound pretty good.
Yeah, I know I'm being nitpicky, but Mario 64 has a very special place in my heart.
I think other than Nathaniel Bandy, you're one of the most qualified people to talk about it.
Thank you. It
You're welcome.
means a lot.
But anyways, I think that about wraps it up. In our next discussion, we'll be talking about the Super Mario Sunshine remaster, which, oh, I can't wait to talk about that. There's so much to say. I'm Demetri.